Have you ever imagined being thrown into a pit full of hungry lions and still coming out unharmed? How can anyone survive something like this? This is not just a story of courage, but of an unshakable faith that defied kings and empires. Today you will discover the incredible journey of Daniel, the prophet who faced betrayal, interpreted mysterious dreams, and experienced impressive miracles. Get ready to discover how faith can change destinies and transform even the most powerful rulers. The complete story of Daniel, the prophet who survived the lion's den. In the vastness of ancient history rises a figure whose unwavering faith defied empires and continues to inspire generations. This is the incredible journey of Daniel, the prophet who faced kings, interpreted dreams, and survived the dreaded lion's den. An epic trajectory that reveals the power of true devotion amid the greatest trials. Our story begins at a dark time for the people of Judah. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, a threat hung over Jerusalem. Nebuchadnezzar, the powerful king of Babylon, besieged the holy city. The scriptures report that God allowed the fall of Jerusalem, handing Jehoiakim and part of the temple treasures into the hands of the Babylonian conqueror. Among the captives taken into exile was a young man named Daniel. Torn from his homeland, he was forced to travel hundreds of miles through the desert to the great city of Babylon. Imagine the fear and uncertainty that must have invaded Daniel's heart when he saw the city's imposing walls. However, something about him set him apart from the other captives, an inner strength and unshakable faith that would soon be put to the test. Upon arriving in Babylon, Daniel and some other young Jews were selected for a special mission. Nebuchadnezzar ordered Ashpenaz, the chief of his officers, to choose Israelites from the nobility and royal family, young men without physical defects, of good appearance, learned and wise, capable of serving in the royal palace. Nebuchadnezzar's plan was clear and calculated, to mold these young people according to Babylonian culture, erasing their Jewish roots and transforming them into faithful servants of the empire. For 3 years, Daniel and his friends would be immersed in the language, literature, and customs of the Chaldeans. Furthermore, they would receive food and wine from the king's table, a privilege that hid a subtle challenge. It was at this moment that Daniel faced his first big test. The food and drink served in the palace went against Jewish dietary laws. He could have easily given in, justifying that he was just obeying the king's orders. After all, he was a prisoner in a foreign land. Who could blame him? But Daniel chose a different path. He decided not to defile himself with the king's food and asked the chief of officers for permission to abstain from it. This act of courage demonstrated that even in adverse circumstances, Daniel was determined to honor God above all else. The officer, although he respected Daniel, feared for his own life. If the young Jews appeared weaker than the others, he could be punished. But Daniel, firm in his faith, proposed a daring test. For 10 days, he and his companions would eat only vegetables and drink water. At the end of this period, they would be compared to the young people who ate at the king's banquets. During these 10 crucial days, Daniel and his friends trusted that God would sustain them. The result was surprising. The scriptures tell us that at the end of the test, his appearance was healthier and stronger than that of the other young men who ate the king's food. This miracle not only preserved Daniel's integrity, but also established his reputation with the Babylonians. Over the next 3 years, Daniel and his companions excelled greatly. God granted these 4 young men exceptional wisdom and intelligence, allowing them to understand all aspects of Babylonian culture and science. To Daniel, in particular, God gave a unique gift, the power to interpret visions and dreams. When it came time to present themselves to King Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel and his friends excelled impressively. The king talked with them and found no one like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. As a result, they were chosen to serve directly in the royal court. The scriptures reveal to us that in all matters that required wisdom and discernment, the king consulted them and considered them 10 times wiser than all the magicians and enchanters in his kingdom. Thus Daniel, the young exile, found favor with the most powerful ruler of the time. His faithfulness to God elevated him to a position of influence, preparing him for the extraordinary events that were to come. The young man who arrived as a captive was about to become one of the empire's most trusted advisors, all because he chose to remain faithful to his God, even in a foreign land. Daniel's fame as a wise and upright young man quickly spread throughout Nebuchadnezzar's court. His God-given gift of interpreting dreams would soon be tested in a way that would change his life and the history of the empire. One night, the powerful King Nebuchadnezzar had a disturbing dream. He woke up in distress, unable to remember the details of the dream, but certain that it had an important meaning. Determined to understand this mysterious vision, the king summoned all the magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers of Babylon. Before his court, he made an extraordinary demand. He not only wanted them to interpret the dream, but also to describe it. "If you don't tell me what my dream was and don't interpret it, I will have you cut into pieces, and your houses will be reduced to rubble," declared Nebuchadnezzar. The Babylonian sages were perplexed. Never before had a king made such an impossible request. They responded desperately, "There is no man on earth who can accomplish such a thing." The king's fury increased, and he ordered the execution of all the wise men of Babylon, including Daniel and his friends. When Daniel learned of the decree, he acted wisely and prudently. He approached Arioch, the commander of the royal guard in charge of the executions, and asked for time to interpret the king's dream. Calmly and confidently, Daniel returned home and gathered his 3 friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Together, they knelt and cried out to God for mercy, asking him to reveal the mystery. That night, God answered Daniel in a vision. Overcome with gratitude, Daniel praised the Lord. "Praise be to the name of God forever and ever. Wisdom and power belong to him. He reveals deep mysteries and knows what is in darkness." The next morning, Daniel was taken before King Nebuchadnezzar. With humility, he declared, "No sage, enchanter, wizard, or soothsayer can reveal this mystery to the king. But there is a God in the heavens who reveals mysteries." Then Daniel described the king's dream. He saw an immense statue with a head of gold, breast and arms of silver, belly and thighs of bronze, legs of iron and feet made of iron mixed with clay. Suddenly, a stone, uncut by human hands, hit the statue's feet, completely destroying it. The stone grew and became a great mountain that filled the entire earth. The king listened attentively, impressed. Then Daniel revealed the interpretation. The statue represented a succession of empires. The golden head was Nebuchadnezzar himself and his kingdom of Babylon. The other metals represented future kingdoms, each less valuable but stronger than the last. The stone that destroyed the statue symbolized a kingdom established by God, which would never be destroyed and which would replace all human kingdoms. Upon hearing these words, King Nebuchadnezzar was so impressed that he prostrated himself before Daniel and declared, "Surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings." As a reward for his wisdom, Daniel was promoted to a position of great honor. He became governor of the entire province of Babylon and head of all the wise men in the kingdom. Furthermore, at Daniel's request, his friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were also elevated to important positions in the government. Daniel's faithfulness to God not only saved his life and those of his companions, but also caused the pagan king himself to recognize the power of the God of Israel. However, time would prove that Nebuchadnezzar had not yet fully learned his lesson. Later, driven by pride and arrogance, he ordered the construction of a gigantic golden statue and demanded that everyone in the kingdom bow down to it in worship. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused to prostrate themselves before the image, as it violated their faith in God. When the king learned of their disobedience, he was furious and ordered them to be thrown into a fiery furnace. Faced with the threat of death, the three young people remained firm and declared, "If we are thrown into the fiery furnace, the God we serve can deliver us. But even if he does not deliver us, we will not worship his statue." Nebuchadnezzar's fury increased even more, and he ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times hotter than normal. The three were tied up and thrown into the fire. The flame was so intense that the guards who threw them were instantly consumed. But to everyone's surprise, something extraordinary happened. The king looked into the furnace and saw not 3, but 4 men walking freely in the middle of the flames. "Didn't we throw 3 men into the fire?" asked the king. "For I see 4, and the 4th appears to be a divine being." Nebuchadnezzar called the young men out of the furnace. When they came out, they didn't even have a strand of burned hair, nor the smell of smoke on their clothes. Faced with this miracle, Nebuchadnezzar declared, "Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. No other God can save in this way." This event marked yet another great victory for the faith of God's servants in exile. However, Daniel's journey was still far from over. Years later, a new king would occupy the throne, and Daniel would face his greatest challenge, a test that would land him straight in the lion's den. Time passed, and the power of Babylon was replaced by the Medo-Persian Empire. The new ruler, Darius, soon recognized Daniel's wisdom and integrity and placed him in a position of great authority. Darius appointed 120 satraps to rule the empire and chose 3 main administrators to oversee them. Among these administrators was Daniel, whose intelligence and fidelity made him superior to the others. The king was so impressed with Daniel that he planned to promote him to rule the entire empire. This decision aroused envy and resentment among the other leaders. Unable to find any fault with Daniel's conduct, they decided to attack his faith. They realized that the only way to harm him was to create a trap that would force him to choose between his loyalty to the king and his loyalty to God. Thus, they conspired and convinced the king to sign a decree prohibiting any subject from offering prayers or petitions to any god or man, except King Darius himself, for a period of 30 days. Anyone who disobeyed would be thrown into the lion's den. Darius, without realizing the true purpose of this law, agreed and signed the decree, which could not be revoked according to the laws of the Medes and Persians. When Daniel learned of the decree, he was not shaken. Instead of hiding his faith or changing his routine, he continued to pray as he always did. 3 times a day, he knelt in his room with the windows open towards Jerusalem and sought God with gratitude and supplications. His enemies were lying in wait and soon caught him in prayer. Eager to carry out their plan, they ran to the king and said, "O King Darius, did you not sign a decree prohibiting prayers to any god or man except you for 30 days? For Daniel, one of the exiles of Judah, did not respect this order and continues to pray 3 times a day." The king was devastated when he realized he had been tricked. He tried to find a way to save Daniel, but Persian law did not allow revocations. At the end of the day, with no alternative, Darius gave the order for Daniel to be thrown into the lion's den. Before this happened, the king, deeply distressed, said to Daniel, "May the God you continually serve deliver you." Daniel was thrown into the pit, and a stone was placed over the entrance, sealed with the royal seal. King Darius spent the night without sleep, refusing to eat or receive entertainment. His heart was heavy with worry. At dawn, the king ran to the cave and, in a trembling voice, called, "Daniel, servant of the living God, was your God, whom you serve faithfully, able to deliver you from the lions?" To his surprise and relief, a voice answered from inside the pit. "O King, live forever. My God sent an angel who closed the lions' mouths. They did not harm me, for I was found innocent before God, and also before you, O King. I have never committed any crime." Darius immediately ordered Daniel to be taken out of the pit. To everyone's astonishment, he didn't have a single scratch, as he had trusted in God. Then the king decreed that the conspirators be thrown into the lion's den, and before they even reached the ground, the animals devoured them. With this miracle, Darius proclaimed a decree to all the people of the empire. "I command people throughout my kingdom to fear and revere the God of Daniel, for he is the living God who endures forever. His kingdom will never be destroyed, and his dominion will never end. He delivers and saves, he performs signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth. He delivered Daniel from the power of the lions." Thus, once again, Daniel's faithfulness not only saved him, but also caused a pagan king to recognize the power of the God of Israel. After the miraculous deliverance from the lion's den, Daniel continued to prosper under the reign of Darius and later Cyrus, the Persian king. His influence remained firm, and he continued to serve as one of the wisest and most respected men in the empire. But in addition to his life of faithfulness and miracles, Daniel also received prophetic visions that revealed future events, impacting not only his time, but the entire history of humanity. In one of his most striking visions, Daniel saw 4 great beasts emerging from the sea, representing kingdoms that would emerge over the centuries. These prophetic images pointed to empires such as the Babylonian, Medo-Persian, Greek, and Roman. However, the vision went beyond human dominion and announced an eternal kingdom established by God himself that would never be destroyed. Another crucial prophetic moment was the revelation of the 70 weeks, a period that indicated the coming of the Messiah and the events that would happen to the people of Israel. These prophecies became fundamental to understanding the history of redemption and are even mentioned in the New Testament. Daniel not only interpreted dreams and visions, but also remained an example of faithfulness until the end of his life. His commitment to God never wavered, even in the face of challenges, betrayals, and death threats. He demonstrated that true faith is not shaken by adversity, but is strengthened by it. Daniel's story teaches us that faithfulness to God can lead us to positions of influence, even in hostile environments. His life proves that God honors those who stand firm in his word, protecting them and using them to fulfill greater purposes. If this message touched your heart, share it in the comments and subscribe to the channel to continue following biblical stories that inspire us. May God bless you and your family. Until the next video.